Today, I want to talk about a couple of really cool products. These are the Peak Design travel tripods. The carbon fiber model is about $250 more expensive. So looking at these things head to head might save you a few $100. Let's talk about it. First things first, this is not a sponsored video. These products were purchased and I am just comparing them out of my own curiosity and to help you guys make the right choice when you're deciding how to spend those hard-earned stimulus checks. That was a joke. Don't actually spend your stimulus checks on gear. That was a joke. You get it. Moving on. This video is not sponsored, but I will provide affiliate links to these tripods in the description of this video. If you're interested in picking either one of these up, go check them out. It would be greatly appreciated if you used one of those affiliate links. It doesn't cost you anything, and it earns me a small commission. So that's greatly appreciated if you are interested in picking one of these up. All right, second thing second. Are these any good? And the answer, that shouldn't be any surprise if you've ever used anything by Peak Design, is yes, they're really good. And if you are in the market for a small compact travel tripod, I think you'd be making a mistake by not considering the Peak Design as a very serious contender. Are there more stable tripods out there on the market? Yes. Are there cheaper tripods on the market? Most definitely, but in the context of what these are, which is small, lightweight, compact travel tripods, these perform on par, if not a little bit better than some of the competition from the likes of Get So, Really Right Stuff, Manfrotto, which can easily come in as 2 or 3 times the price of these tripods at $1,000 to $2,000 for some of them. So it's really safe to say that these hit well above their weight class in terms of value and performance for dollar. But physical quality and functionality aside, I think Peak Design has done something really kind of incredible here, and that is they've made the compact travel tripod enjoyable to use. I've used multiple different brands, different styles of compact travel tripods, and it's just not a product that I have ever really enjoyed using. So much so that I'll create excuses not to use them because I just dislike the process so much. But these tripods have changed that for me. It's the reverse. I want to create scenarios where I can use these tripods because they're just an enjoyable product to use. So Peak Design has done something really special by going back to the drawing board and completely reimagining the tripod here with these. And to be fair, the majority of the photography that I do right now as a wedding and portrait photographer doesn't really lend itself to the use of tripods all that much. But I do have several projects in the works where I will be getting out and using these in the field a little bit more frequently. So I'm excited to kind of continue to develop these thoughts and relay those thoughts to you guys about these products. But in the meantime, this is my comparison of the carbon fiber model versus the aluminum model. And I'm going to compare these in the light that I think they're best utilized, or at least the light that I'm going to use them in, and that is in an outdoor adventure landscape kind of photography scenario where, one, you need the lightest gear possible because you're usually packing these things in to remote locations that are hard to reach, and two, you need a tripod because you're going to be shooting long exposures or multiple exposures of the same frame to be able to do focus, stacking, or bracketing. So that's the context which I'm going to kind of look at this comparison with. And there's really just two things worth talking about because these tripods are otherwise identical except for the fact that one's legs are carbon fiber and the others are aluminum. And those two things are weight and vibration reduction. As for weight, this is a fairly short talking point, and it shouldn't come as any surprise that the carbon fiber model is lighter. It's about 2/3 of a pound lighter, which is definitely enough to notice, but I don't think it's enough to really be the sole consideration on your buying decision. If you are the type of photographer who absolutely needs the lightest pack possible, maybe you're shooting alpine photography and you're doing long ascents, multiple days up mountains, weight really, even 2/3 of a pound can really come into consideration there. So if you're that type of photographer, the carbon fiber model is the easy choice. It's lighter, it wins that battle. But conversely, if you don't necessarily need the lightest weight gear possible, I don't think that the weight savings alone is significant enough to spend $250 more to get the carbon fiber model. So take that for what you will. If you need weight savings and that is your primary goal, carbon fiber model all the way. But if not, I would consider a couple other things before just immediately going for the carbon fiber model, because you might not need to spend the extra money. Now, let's talk about vibration control or vibration reduction. And that's really the question between these two tripods is, does the carbon fiber model do a better job of controlling or reducing the vibrations that just inherently come with being out in nature, from the wind, from us touching the camera, all these different things, because that's really where the money is going to be made up in terms of this being more expensive. Is the functionality there, the increased reduction in vibration and camera movement when it's on this tripod, is that worth an additional $250? So I conducted a little experiment to test this, and the experiment was simple. I mounted a camera on both tripods, the identical camera with the identical setup, so the weight wasn't any different, and believe it or not, I used a hairdryer to test how the wind affects these tripods. Now, this hairdryer that I use, believe it or not, can generate wind or move air in excess of 45 miles per hour. So unless you're shooting in like hurricane force winds, it'll give a good idea of how the wind might affect each of these tripods. And the reason this is important is because when we're shooting landscape photography, we're often shooting at f8, f11, f14, and in order to compensate for our exposure with those high apertures, we'll often use longer shutter speeds because our subject isn't moving. So what can happen is the wind or even us stepping around the base of our tripod can cause movement and camera shake, and that comes at the expense of the sharpness of our image, which we spent thousands of dollars on incredible lenses to be able to get. So it's important to have a tripod that can settle out and absorb vibrations quite well. I also did a test to see how well these tripods will dampen out vibrations after pressing the shutter. It's common practice with landscape photography or any long exposure photography to use a delay on the shutter. So you push the shutter button and there's either a 2 or a 10-second delay before the shutter actually releases. And what that's doing is giving your camera and your tripod time to settle out the vibrations before it takes the image. So for this test, I simply mounted the cameras again, same camera, same setup, same weight. I pressed record so that we could see what was going on with the cameras. I hit the shutter button and then I timed it for 10 seconds to see how well these tripods canceled out that vibration before the shutter released. And you can see from the test that I did, they weren't incredibly scientific, but it should give us an idea that the carbon fiber did cancel out and dampen those vibrations significantly quicker than the aluminum model in both the wind test and the shutter release button pressing test. Yeah. So I think if you're looking at one of these tripods in order to shoot long exposures, landscapes, stuff like that, and vibration control is a main concern, again, the carbon fiber model is a clear winner, and at that point, I think the weight savings is just a bonus, to be honest. But I want to talk about really quick a use case where specifically the aluminum tripod is a really great value for money, and that is for video shooters who use their cameras locked off a lot when they're on a tripod. Now, so many times I find myself solo shooting projects where I'm using my tripods completely locked off, like in this scenario where the functionality of my big, expensive, heavy fluid heads is lost because my tripod has become a glorified kickstand at this point. And traveling with these big, expensive, heavy fluid heads just to get locked off shots has always been something that I've struggled to rationalize. It's always been a choice that's been really difficult to make. And so often I'll just find ways to not need locked off shots and leave the tripod at home. But with these small, lightweight, easy to travel tripods, I don't have to make that decision anymore because it's easier to take these and not need them than it is to leave them behind and risk wanting to get some static shots but not being able to. Filmmaking is all about problem solving, and I think that's really going to be the selling point for either of these tripods for most people, is that it has greatly reduced the friction of being able to solve problems and use tripods. Because tripods obviously are incredibly useful tools, they're just so dang annoying to use most of the time. And even in a small filming studio, doing talking head stuff or interview style stuff, with a lot of the small, lightweight, mirrorless cameras that so many people are using on small production these days, I don't know if there's a better option than these travel tripods right here. In my small home studio, I would use one of these every time over one of my much larger video tripods, just for ease of moving them around. They're lightweight, they're compact, I can fold them up easily and move them from one corner of my space to the other. And my home studio is not that big, I don't have a lot of room in there, so these are just a great option. They solve a lot of problems that people have when it comes to shooting photo and video. So Peak Design, I believe, has solved a real problem here. Is there room for improvement? Absolutely. That'll always be true. But I am really excited for the iterative progress that comes with products like this and seeing what Peak Design does with a version 2, a version 3, because Peak Design is known to have multiple versions. If you look at their capture clip or any of their bags, they have V1s, V2s, V3s. So I am excited to see what this develops into in the future, because as a first take, this is a really impressive piece of gear. It just takes something in the past that has always felt like a necessary evil and turns it into something that's enjoyable. And that alone is worth the money to me. So I hope this little comparison has been helpful for you guys. I'm really looking forward to getting these out in the field and using them a little bit more in depth to do some landscape photography and some long exposure stuff, and then bringing those thoughts back here and relaying them to you guys. But in the meantime, I hope that kind of helped you see a little bit of the difference between the carbon fiber and the aluminum model, and hopefully make a choice what might be better for you. So that's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. If you did, let me know down in the comments section. I always enjoy hearing that this content that I'm producing and putting out there is helpful to you guys. So let me know if you've enjoyed it and if you've learned anything down in the comments section. And while you're down there, give it a thumbs up, sub to the channel if you want to see some more content like this, and I'll see you soon. Yeah, I appreciate you guys. Much love. Peace.